Hello, everyone. Greetings and welcome to our Facebook folks visiting us, to our Zoom family. Welcome to another time, another day of the Daily Antidote of Song. Whoop, whoop, everybody. I'm Kathy Bullock, and I'm delighted to welcome all of you on behalf of the great Joe Rossi, who coordinates and puts it all together, the Carpe Diem, who is supporting this event. We have been rocking, y'all. This organization, for any newcomers to us, has been happening, this event, since last April, every day, 7 days a week. What? We get together and sing. And we get to hear fabulous music from fabulous people, and today's no different. So first, let me welcome every one of you. Welcome Dan again from Fiesta from yesterday. Welcome Deli, Susan G, Al, Christiana, Kim, Carol from Connecticut, Sushan, Sheila from Florida, Jim Harkless, good to see you, Kate, and Kevin, always good, Susan, Arlene, wonderful, Kathleen, Aloysius, Sid and Victoria, Pete and Jen from Toronto. Hey, both of you, Susan Miller from Seattle, Washington. We got Bob in Tucson, Carolyn, Gary Vosner from Vermont, Luda, Bonnie, Emily, Nancy's cow. It says Phil Hogg. Phil, welcome, Susan, Schreiber, Bob Lee, and Lafferty Tom from British Columbia, Kathy, Virginia, Dane, Busy, Hoda, Mabel, Lisa, Carolyn, Quant, and Lynn, and all the rest of you who are here and joining us. Woo! Welcome. Okay, I'm not going to take any more time away except to say, hold on to your seats. We are continuing this week a celebration of the Archive Challenge Week with these phenomenal scholars and performers, and I'm going to introduce the one and only Jennifer Cutting to you, and she is with the Folklife Center and will tell you all about what's going to happen today. Take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you, Kathy, for that very joyful introduction. I am, as Kathy said, Jennifer Cutting, and I'm here with my colleague, Stephen Winnick, and we are both Folklife specialists at the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress, which is your National Folk Archive. So we're smack in the middle of our fourth Archive Challenge Partnership Week on the Daily Antidote Song.
And we're going to tell you all about that after Jayme sings. But I just wanted to say that I'm excited to say that it's my first day of actually working at the Library of Congress on site since the pandemic began in March 2020. So I'm in the building, in the Jefferson building. The ironic thing is that Jennifer's background makes it look like she's in the building. I don't have that background, so I just look like I'm in a random room, but I'm actually in the building that Jennifer's background looks like. I'm in Deck A, which is a little structure on top of the building, which is kind of cool. So I'm in the attic of the Jefferson building of the Library of Congress. When we scheduled this Archive Challenge Week, Jennifer and I didn't know that they'd be sending us back this very week. So we just love working here in the largest library on earth and the nation's oldest federal cultural institution. The American Folklife Center, our division of the library, is of course just one small division of a great library, but we do think of ourselves as small but mighty.
That we are. We are going to tell you a little more about this American Folklife Center and the Archive Challenge, but later, because first we want to get to our fantastic guest and his song first. So let's introduce Jayme Stone. Jayme is actually from Toronto. He's from our neighbor to the north. He's Canadian, but he's coming to us today from just outside Boulder, Colorado. Jayme is a musician, a composer, an instigator, a producer, and an educator. And we're going to tell you a lot more about him a little bit later. Jayme, take it away.
Hi, friends. I'm very, 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 very honored and glad to be here and sharing some song with you. And through the amazing medium, you can't see it, but it actually looks like some kind of electronic Ouija board. I have some friends with me. You guys all met Maura Smiley? the other day. She's a dear friend of mine. We've made a lot of music together. I have her voice trapped inside this little Ouija board. So you'll hear Maura, which I can trigger, and my friend Felicity, who will help fill out the picture of this song. This is in lieu of not being able to hear your amazing voices as you join. But this is a song which we will talk about, and you should have the lyrics for, that I've really, really loved for a long time. And it's called There Is More Love Somewhere. And those are most of the lyrics, and about all you need to know. Here we go. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. And I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. It just occurred to me that I haven't taught it to you yet, but now you can hear it. So we'll hang out here for a minute before I sing the next verse. Every verse, it will swap out another word for love. So there is more joy somewhere, there is more peace somewhere. Eventually there is heaven somewhere, literally and figuratively maybe. And so you can just follow along the pattern. You guys all have it. Give a wave if you feel like you've got it in your ear. And I'll sing that verse again, and then we'll keep on going. So more love, more joy, more peace. And if you're feeling something else, whatever you want more of in your life, you just name that. It'll work out. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere, and I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. You got it. There is more joy somewhere, and I'm gonna keep on until I find it. There is more joy somewhere, more peace. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere, and I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere, and I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. Let's do more joy again. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere, and I'm gonna keep on until I find it. There is more joy somewhere. There is heaven somewhere. There is heaven somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is heaven somewhere. One more time. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. You can just keep singing that. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. Oh, I wish I could hear all of you right now, but you're making a very beautiful mosaic on my screen. It's like I can...
Oh, that was so gorgeous. All of your layers. It was beautiful to hear your banjo ringing out. We loved hearing Moira again, whom we met a few days ago. It it really brings it full circle to hear her and you together again. And I cannot say enough about your reimagining of this song. The original song is, as Moira would say, sturdy and good. And what you've imagined for it is so, just so fabulous.
Thank you. Yeah, the spirit of that song, I feel like, is so powerful. And yeah, like you said, Bessie's version is kind of untouchable in many ways. It's just absolutely perfect, just as it is. And why not experiment with surrounding it by all kinds of other sounds and possibilities? Yeah.
It must have been so amazing for you to come to our archive on when you performed. Had you been to our archive before you came to perform for us in 2017, or had you accessed it all online?
No, I had come a couple of times, and not being an academic, I sort of stumbled my way in, and Todd Harvey from the Lomax archive was very, very kind to kind of usher me in. In fact, the very first time I came, I gave my band lunch money while we were on tour. And I said, you know, we're going to be late for sound check tonight, but I got to go spend a couple hours in the archive. And Todd was, I think, a bit surprised that I showed up with like about 2 hours, you know, before I was going to be picked up. And he was very gracious and said, well, let's just go straight downstairs. And he took me down to where they actually house the actual physical collection. And I went through.
You know what an honor that is? We don't take people into the stacks. That's a great honor.
Very fortunate. And so I dispensed with the library card and special requests and white gloves. and was able to just literally get my hands dirty opening boxes.
Yeah.
One of the first things I held was the very first Lead Belly acetate disc.
That is a holy object.
Yeah, and so I really got a deep dive, and then came back for a couple subsequent visits, and got to spend a lot more time, and of course, many, many, many hours and years investigating the digital collection, which is now more robust than it was.
Yes, and the interface is even better than it was. They've given it a new makeover. But
Mhm.
before we talk about the Association for Cultural Equity site, I want to give people a little tiny bit of history of our archive, just a quick public service announcement to let folks know that our archive, although it dates back to 1928, we actually have recordings from as early as 1890, the first wax cylinder recording being of Passamaquoddy Indians from Maine. We have the field recordings of performers that everybody knows and loves: Muddy Waters, Pete Seeger, Lead Belly, Woody Guthrie, Aunt Molly Jackson, Jean Ritchie, and of course, the fabulous Bessie Jones. But I also want to say that there are thousands more amazing tradition bearers whose names we may never know and whose names you've never heard of, but their songs and their stories and their voices are enshrined with exactly the same reverence and care, because we believe that every voice forms an essential part of the great mosaic that is our history.
Right, and one of the interesting things about the archive is that it has always served as an inspiration to artists. We mentioned on Monday, for example, that Frank Prophet's Tom Dooley from the Anne and Frank Warner collection was reinterpreted by the Kingston Trio in 1958 and sparked our great folk boom. A couple of years ago, the English singer-songwriter Billy Bragg came here to this building to interview me about the Lomax's recording of Rock Island Line, which similarly sparked the skiffle craze in Britain, which led to both the folk revival as we know it and the British rock and roll scene. Similarly, one of the best-known pieces of American classical music, Copland's Hoedown from Rodeo, is a fiddle tune from our archive. So all of these things have been interpreted by people ever since the archive was really founded.
I was reading a message from Carolyn just now. She asked to see Figgy, and Carolyn, I will see if I can find him for you. But yeah, let me think. So I wanted to tell you a little bit really quickly about the Archive Challenge. Archive Challenge, 2 words. What does it mean? Well, in 2015, we had this idea that taking creative inspiration from the collections that had already been going on since 1928, but we would give it a platform and a special name and a new kind of intentionality. So we invited a specific set of artists to research our collections to find a song or a tune or a story that really inspired them and floated their boat. And then we invited them to arrange or interpret that piece in their very own way. And we called it the Archive Challenge. We did that at the 2015 Folk Alliance Conference, and it was so successful that after that, we did it at the Library of Congress. And later during the pandemic and afterward, we invited people to take the Archive Challenge from home. And these Archive Challenges on the weeks on the Daily Antidote are extensions of that original Archive Challenge. I just wanted to say that Jayme, in his 2017 concert at the Library of Congress, he came out on stage with maybe the best metaphor of all for what we're doing in the Archive Challenge. I mean, in the past, I've compared it to putting old wine in new bottles, metaphors like that. But Jayme remarked halfway through his concert that reimagining these songs is like, and I quote, planting heirloom seeds in today's ground. And I love that image so much, Jayme. Thank you for that. Please tell us, how did you first discover these heirloom seeds of the recordings from our archive?
Yeah, well, my way in, our way in is usually backwards,
Uh-huh.
because, we're always forward in time or downstream of, all this music that's happened before us. But I heard a record by David Grisman and Jerry Garcia when I was
Uh-huh.
in my young teenage years, that I really loved. And I have always been an avid liner note reader. And I remember poring over the liner notes, and they mentioned this book called the Old Time String Band Songbook that John Cohen and Mike Seeger put together. It was essentially a New Lost City Ramblers songbook.
Okay.
And one of the beautiful things was that every single song that they had in the book, they had, the lyrics and the music, and sometimes there'd be guitar, banjo, tablature, but they would put the source recording. So they
Uh-huh.
learned this from so and so's recording. Um,
Ah.
and I immediately started getting those recordings. And then I would hear, read those liner notes and keep tracing back. And then soon after, heard about Alan Lomax and read The Land Where the Blues Began. And then many, many years later, the John Swed's biography of him that's astounding. But in between, I used to send away for Smithsonian Folkways, basically would make CDs and vinyl of just a tiny portion of their collection, but you could get anything. Like, so there was, two albums of Elizabeth Cotton's music, but
Hmm.
they had the masters of hundreds of songs. And so
Yeah.
you could write them a postcard, and for like $10 or something like that, they would take the original reel to reels down, spin you up a cassette tape in this funny shaped package, and send it with these like, mimeographed. They were well beyond liner notes. They were very geeky. You could
Yeah.
read pages and pages all about every song and interviews and all this stuff. And I really reveled in it. Something in me kind of resonated, and I loved the process of discovery. And of course, I love the music.
Hmm.
And I love this idea of tracing back and finding the unsung, more arcane corners of these collections.
Yeah.
Because what I discovered is for every well known artist like Woody Guthrie and every well known song like John Henry, there was thousands of unknown, lesser known songs that they just didn't make the cut of the things that were in circulation. And so that's really where this all started for me. And then when I discovered the Library of Congress collection, it was just a field day in a field collection.
I
Wonderful.
call
Well,
it kid in a candy shop. And you've not just covered things Lomax collected, but you've covered things that Herbert Halpert has collected and other collectors from our archive too.
Yeah, and one of the things, I mean, you mentioned Herbert Halpert, who was one of the folklorists who worked there and recorded, um, and he recorded a song that a lot of people know, "Sea Lion Woman." Do you guys know
Uh-huh.
that?
mm,
Yeah.
That's
Oh yeah.
part of how we know it is because Nina Simone actually went to the archive trying to,
that's right.
trace back her history, and she found this recording of the Ship Sisters from Byhalia, Mississippi, I believe.
That is correct.
That's right.
Uh, and of course, that was the only song of that particular session that was ever released. And so I thought, well, there's no way that was all they recorded that day. I wonder what everything else sounded like. And sure enough, I still have them. I don't know if they've been. I mean, somebody should release these as a record because every single song that this like 8 and 11-year-old girl in 1938 recorded is an absolute treasure. Everyone. So that song tipped me off to these two musicians, who will likely never be household names, and yet they've shaped our culture and our music in such a beautiful way. So I love that, and sort of, I like to think of, scattering these heirloom seeds and bringing songs back into circulation. Bessie Jones used to talk about the music in the air,
Mhm.
and even like before radio, she always had the sense that there was like the music was in the air, and you just kind of had to like pull it down. And it's almost as if she had like a sense of the internet,
Mhm.
decades before it happened. And here I actually have um, My friend
Huh.
Sam Bartlett, who's an outsider artist, lives in Bloomington, Indiana, made me a little all my favorite musicians. So I have Bessie Jones up here all the time, staring me down.
Very cool. So why don't we back up a little because we never really introduced Jayme because, of course, we wanted to get to the song right away. But over the years, Jayme has explored many different styles of music. He's recorded 7 albums, and career highlights for him include winning 2 Juno Awards and 3 Canadian Folk Music Awards, being featured on NPR, the BBC, the CBC, and of course performing thousands of concerts all over the place, including at the Library of Congress. And we have alluded to his concert here several times. It was in 2017. It was with the Folklife Project, which also included Maura Smiley. So both of them are in that concert, and you can find that on the Library of Congress website. There's a link to a blog that I wrote, which actually connects both that and an oral history interview done by Todd Harvey with Jayme. So you can find all of that stuff, more great stuff about Jayme, right there on the Library of Congress website. And we encourage you to sort of expand on your knowledge of Jayme too, because we are very honored to have him in the Archive Challenge, and to, of course, to have had him do not just 1 but 2 full-length albums that are almost entirely material from the American Folklife Center collections, and one of them focused solely on Lomax, and the other then expanded beyond to some other collections. So thank you for seeking us out, Jayme, and thank you for all of the great interpretations that you've done of our songs. You know, you said something that was really insightful, I think, before when Jennifer talked about your arrangement of the song, and you said, yes, Bessie Jones's recording is perfect as it is, so why not do other things to the song? And I
Mhm.
think other people have the opposite feeling. They think, well, Bessie Jones's recording is perfect as it is, so we should just leave it at that. But I think the a more insightful approach is to say, well, that recording already exists and it is perfect, but we're not doing anything to change that if we do our own arrangement. So
Mhm.
thank you for the work that you've done with all of our recordings.
Yeah, and thank you for keeping them, housing them, and also, the you and Jennifer and Todd and everybody there have been so welcoming to me and other musicians that I know, and helping, contextualize and research and keep this music alive and in the air. And yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's very cliche, but I mean, this is really what the folk process is all about. It's like a long game of broken telephone with our ancestors,
Right.
um, you know, either a musician that you meet, an elder, or in this case, a field recording kind of whispers in your ear, and then you take it in and, let it steep inside of your particular musical universe and all of the ingredients. I sort of just forever think of my music practice as being like a little laboratory, and I have all of these things that I'm interested in at any given time, and they will steep with these old songs for a little while. And I mean, I've done already "There Is More Love Somewhere" 100 different ways.
Hmm.
I remember actually the first time I brought it to Bruce Molsky and he sang it, and then we did it with Tim O'Brien singing, and then I was like, kept feeling like there was something in it that I was hearing that no one else was bringing out, and so I did my own version, and then being at home for this quarantine year, I've been spending a lot more time with technology, and so I have my friends here inside of Ableton able to help me kind of bring out this particular rendition, but it'll keep changing, and everybody uh, today will hear it, and maybe you'll sing it to your grandchildren, or maybe you'll perform it, or maybe it'll rattle around your head, and in 2 years it'll pop out and come out with a new melody or a new set of lyrics, and that's sort of I feel like how this folk process keeps going on.
That's
I
fantastic.
love I love the chords that you chose for it. So lovely.
And I want to say that we put in the chat a link that's the tiny URL one, which is a link to Bessie Jones's original recordings and photos on the Association for Cultural Equity website. And they are our partners in a lot of the Alan Lomax material, because they are the foundation that Alan Lomax himself founded, and they handle the rights essentially to all of these materials, and they also run the website which makes them available to the world. So LOC.gov, the Library of Congress, has many, many recordings of all kinds online, including many of Alan Lomax's recordings. But a lot of the recordings that he made after leaving the library in 1942 were then acquired by the library later, and they are administered by the Association for Cultural Equity, and Bessie Jones recordings fall into that category. So we wanted to share actually some of Lomax's photos and the original field recording of Bessie Jones singing More Love Somewhere. So first we can take a look at some photos of Bessie Jones. And I will say that these photos are not the way Bessie Jones normally dressed. So they were doing a film of the music of colonial Williamsburg. So she's dressed more or less in colonial era garb. So this is not how she dressed on a normal day-to-day basis. I want to make that clear, just because it kind of looks like she's, you know, more old-fashioned than she actually was in these pictures. But she was an amazing performer who came from Georgia, but she didn't come from the Sea Islands. She moved there from away when she was young, and as sometimes happens, people's adopted culture, she became a real champion for that culture, and she became part of the Sea Island Singers, which was a group that performed primarily spirituals and also what we would now call freedom songs from their tradition of singing. And one of them was There Is More Love Somewhere, which we can hear that field recording now.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on until I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
So that's what Bessie Jones sounded like when she recorded this for Alan Lomax in his apartment in New York. He, of course, did visit her a lot of the time, but she also made some trips with the Sea Island Singers all over the country, and on some of those occasions, Lomax recorded her as well. So we got a comment in the chat about the great sound quality, and that's true. Lomax was pioneering in his recording, and those recordings from the late 50s and early 60s are some of the earliest stereo tape recordings that were made of musicians in the field, and they're brilliantly the music itself is brilliant, but the sound quality is such a leap above some of the other field recordings that we have from just a few years before that. So thanks for noticing that, and we love that recording. So again, that is what Jayme was working with. That is what Jayme initially heard, and the rest was his imagination, for which we thank him heartily once again. And you can just see as Jennifer said, it's a beautiful, sturdy song. As Jayme said, perfect in its own right, but there's so much that you can also do with it.
And Jayme, I noticed that you honored her Bessie's clapping on 2 and 4. You picked that up in your arrangement and did either a snare or a clave or some percussive element that was snaring on beats 2 and 4.
Yeah.
And that was a continuity that carried through.
And for those of you that are going to explore the archive a little more, I'd really encourage you to listen to Bessie's stories.
Yes.
One thing,
Great storyteller.
amazing storytelling, and those recordings are really powerful, even from that very day that There Is More Love was recorded, to really understand or get a little bit of an insight into how much, you know, stories and the land and her ancestry and her community was part, like she was kind of a medicine woman. There's
Right.
probably like 50 recordings of her talking about you know, various medicinal plants and what she uses this for and what you use this for, and to see that the music and her relationship to the land and people and healing and her spiritual beliefs were all so interconnected. And she would weave in and out of talking about those things and then singing songs. And when the song gets pulled out of that context, suddenly it just becomes a music recording, you know, that we listen to on shuffle with many other things. And it starts to feel like it, you know, even though it can sit alongside commercial music as we know it, to see that it was a much more kind of
Organic.
and comprehensive, holistic, I think is the word, experience of culture. You know, that music is part of culture, and culture includes a lot of things. And I feel like in this day and age, you know, both in the way that we live and the way that we consume music, it's really useful to remember that. And
True. And speaking of how we consume music, how are we going to consume your music in the days to come as the world opens back up again? Love to hear what you're doing right now, how you stayed connected to your audience during COVID-19 times, and whether you have any plans for playing live again anytime soon.
yeah, I mean, I'm one of the very, very lucky and fortunate musicians that had work through this last year. I do a lot of producing and had more production work than I've ever had. So I was very satisfied and busy in this very room. And honestly, after many, many years, you know, 15 plus years of touring quite a lot, going from album cycle to album cycle, it was really nice for me to take a break. And I recognize that that's an incredibly privileged thing that I had. And I have two kids, and it was the first time I'd spent this long at home without the endless interruption and repair and coming and goings. And so I had a really, really lovely year and learned a lot and created a lot and wrote a lot. And then suddenly about, I don't know, 6 weeks ago, I got vaccinated, and like clockwork, like shows started coming back. I traveled a little bit already. It's happened very suddenly. It's almost jarring.
Yes.
I'm trying to keep some of the slowness that I valued so much in this last year, even though I'm so enjoying playing music again and being around people again and all of it. So I've done a bunch of concerts already. I went into Arkansas in May and played a couple of shows at a festival. Been doing some local things here in Colorado, and I'm going to be in New York next month, July 10th, to play as part of the Carnegie Hall Citywide Festival. We're going to play on an old grocery store front porch on Staten Island.
Wonderful.
Small little show. But yeah, I don't know if I'm ever going to tour quite as much as I used to, but I'm saying yes to things that I can't say no to right now.
Okay.
So that's how
yeah, I'm hearing that from a lot of folks. They'd like to keep the pandemic peace in their lives. And in order to do so, they're cherry picking a little more.
Yeah.
Just being a little bit more selective about which gigs you take and how often you're away from home.
And I see Nancy here asked, where do I perform? If you go to my website, which is linked here, it's just Jayme with a Y, jaymestone.com. In the top right corner, there's just a newsletter button. And if you sign up for my mailing list, I would love that. It's the best way for independent musicians to stay connected without the algorithms and overlords of our world. Um, and
Yes, please, everybody, sign Jayme's mailing list if you
Yeah.
enjoyed this today, and whether you've enjoyed his past work, just meeting him today, sign a mailing list, because it's an unmediated experience directly, Jayme, to you.
So I'll be letting people know about upcoming shows. My calendar's on my website. And I'm also releasing a bunch of new recordings soon.
All right. Yeah, I think, Jayme, a lot of us have noticed that, taking a step back during the pandemic and figuring out new ways of doing things that were originally by necessity because of the pandemic, we're kind of realizing that some of those ways of doing things aren't so bad. And I think we're going to integrate them more into our lives normally. We're doing that with our concert series here at the library, where some of them are, well, all of them for the last 2 years have been videos submitted by the artists rather than actually bringing people here. But we realize that that allows us to bring people from all over the world without them having to travel to the library. So it's these kinds of adjustments, I think, are very healthy, even though they started out from this, tragic experience that we've all had. So uh, thanks again for coming and joining us on this journey. I think this has been an extraordinary day for the Daily Antidote of Song. So join me, everyone, in thanking once again Jayme Stone for being here with us.
Thank you.
And why don't we have a reprieve of that great song,
Yeah.
so we can send everybody away singing?
How much of it do we want to do?
Oh, as much as you want.
It's up to you. Yeah,
Up to you entirely.
you could do the whole thing, but a couple of verses would be great.
All right, let's do that. Let's do a couple of
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, everybody. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. More joy. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere. More peace. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. All right. Thank you all so very much for being here and for giving me the opportunity to share this song. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jayme. And yeah, it's been a beautiful day, as I've said. So thanks for everything you've done for us. And Kathy's going to take it away.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Jennifer, for the phenomenal work you do. Thank you, Jayme, for taking us into the zone. Thank everybody who's here. Remember, if you would like to contribute this to the Carpe Diem, or if you want to be part of the email to get all the good connections, please join us. There's information in the chat, or you can look on our Facebook. For the Facebook family, thank you for joining us. Tomorrow, another great day in the Archive Challenge. Oh, I think there's Figgy in the picture.
Mr. Figgy!
Piggy the Archive Cat.
Figgy the Archive Cat bids good day to everyone.
Yes. So I'll say my goodbyes, and the first one I'm going to say it to is Miss Carolyn, because for some reason on my computer, I didn't see her beautiful face. I don't know what was going on. If I missed anybody else, please let me know. You are vital, and it's vital that I speak your name. I'm just wanting to say, thank you to everybody. Thank you to Dan Walker Deli, to Susan, to Al, Christina, and Bob, to Kim from Vancouver, to Carol, Jay, to Jim Harkless, to Sheila from Florida, Kevin, to Kate in Charlottesville, Susan in North Carolina, Arlene in that beautiful backdrop, Kathleen from Albuquerque, Pete and Janet from Toronto, and Carolyn again. I got you this time. Gary Posner, just a wonderful friend. Bonnie Schuster, Phil Hogg in Devon, and Lafferty, Tom from Victoria, Kathy in Virginia, Bob and Mabel. Oh, it's always a joy to see you and the puppet. Carolyn and Scott Miller, Suzanne, and Fred from DC, Jayme, Victoria, Barbara, Lisa Eason, and Kat Cox from Vermont, Storm, the great Storm, Sandra Moore, Luda from Victoria, Susan Schreiber, Lynn, hello Lynn and Amanda, and Hoda, and all the other Aloysius, all the other wonderful folks who have joined us. Thank you for this day. Know there's joy somewhere. See you tomorrow. Thank you, Joe, for all you did. Thank you, Katie. Woo-woo.
Thank you, Kathy B. Do we get to hear the Kathy B version of There's More Love?
There's more joy somewhere. There is more. We know it, there's a bright side. So somewhere. Don't you rest until you find it. There is more joy somewhere. Thank you, Jayme, for that. Ooh.
Thank you, everybody, for that. That is the perfect way to close. Facebook, I am so glad I didn't sign you off before, because we were glad you got to hear that little bit of magic at the end. Goodbye, everybody on Facebook. Thanks for joining us, and can't wait to sing with you tomorrow, right here, same time, same place.